Hello, everybody. Welcome to episode number 83 of Preston Jensen's podcast. If you're new here, I'm your host, Preston. Tonight, I'm recording a little bit earlier than I usually record my podcast, and I do not have a guest tonight, and that is by design. I didn't feel like I should be scheduling guests out during this time because we are patiently, more like impatiently, waiting the arrival of our second child. Due date is Christmas Day, but doctor said it could be any day now. So we are very excited to introduce another family member to the team here. And I thought I better get this podcast out early because you never know when baby's going to be coming. So I wanted to be prepared. I also want to get this podcast out early because the Minnesota Vikings play tonight, and I thought I want to have this podcast completed because I want to sit and watch the Minnesota Viking game in peace and enjoy it. And I hope it's enjoyable. If you are following along with the Vikings this year, you know they make every game very stressful. Seems like every single game comes down to the final play. Some games are very exciting and others have been very, very disappointing. So it's my hopes and dreams tonight that they will destroy the Chicago Bears, and it will be just an enjoyable 2 hours tonight, but we'll see about that. Tonight I'm going to be doing kind of a deep dive on a company called Poddex. If you guys are familiar with that, and if you're following along on my YouTube channel, I just have a screen share up of the Poddex website, but specifically for those of you who are out there who actually do podcasting as well, it's basically a product that it's a deck of cards that gives you ideas on different topics to podcast about. And last night when I was thinking about what I wanted to do my podcast on today, I knew that I didn't have a guest on. And as I've talked about many times in this podcast, I really prefer to have guests on the show just because I like learning from other people. I don't really like public speaking by myself into the camera and getting recorded. And it's just easier for me to have guests on. Well, I thought it wasn't fair to schedule a guest just because I don't know when our baby is coming. And so I didn't want to have people shifting their schedule around for me. So last night I thought, you know what? I've heard a lot about these pod decks. Maybe I should give them a chance because when I'm just sitting here and podcasting by myself, maybe it would give me some good topics to talk about. And last night when I went through the website, I noticed they had a mobile app. And when I looked up the mobile app, I actually saw that they had a deck of cards or mobile cards that are free. And these cards that I'm going to be working with tonight are actually cards that are supposed to be used to do an entire podcast episode on. But I'm just going to scroll through them so you guys kind of get an idea of what the card is saying and how it can spark podcast ideas. So first card on this pod deck that is free is why I started this podcast. And I think I've done a good job of documenting why I started this podcast. It was because I identified basically in college that public speaking was something I needed to get better at, and it's something that made me feel very uncomfortable. I know that public speaking as a class in college was my least favorite class, but it was also probably my most beneficial. And I think if I've heard studies on this, that most people say that that's one of the best classes you can take in college. And it's kind of because it gets you out of your comfort zone. And that was my whole goal of this podcast. And I've kind of outgrown my goal on this podcast because I feel like I've gotten over the awkwardness of talking to a camera by myself, and I feel like I'm getting more comfortable being recorded and doing public speaking. But my podcast is kind of morphed as a way for me to learn from some of the best people in the industry, and it's kind of awesome, really, because I started this podcast with one goal in mind, and now it's kind of blossomed into something else, and it's given me a lot of opportunities that I wouldn't have had if I didn't start the podcast. Next card is 5 things I'm excited about right now. Boy, I don't know if there's a possibility that I could narrow it down to 5 things. In general, I'm just kind of excited about a lot of things in life. Number one, obviously, is meeting my new child. And I think I'm really excited to see the dynamic with my daughter and my new child and just see how things work. It should be a lot of fun. And I know I'm not the only one excited about that. My whole family is pretty excited. It should be a lot of fun. So that's number one. Boy, after that, there's a lot of good things to be excited about. You know, if you're looking for the negative things in life, you're going to find them. And if you're looking for the positive things in life, you'll find those too. So I say, just for general rule of advice, look for the positive side of things, and you'll be amazed at what you find. All right, cool stuff I'm using lately: apps, products, services. Something that's kind of come up the past couple days is I discovered I'd say, suite of Akara products. I don't know if I'm saying that right, but it's basically like a hub for a smart home that you can buy sensors. I've got several different sensors on the way. You can get leak sensors, you can get motion sensors, you can get vibration sensors, you can get door sensors. The thing I like about it is that a lot of the products, like the Ring products, you're probably familiar with those. You can get the door sensors, you can get the video doorbell. And the thing I don't like about those is, in order to use the pro features, you got to pay for a subscription. And I'm not a very big fan of subscription-based products. If I was someone who was selling a product, obviously I would love the subscription base, because you're getting income from your community every month. And it's a good way to make more money. But this product doesn't have the subscription base. You buy it once, and supposedly it's very user-friendly. And I'm excited to get this product. Hopefully it works. If it does, and it's a good product, I'll probably talk a lot more about that on my podcast. Apps, I guess the coolest app I'm using right now is this PodDecks app, and this free deck of cards to help me with this podcast tonight. And other services, I don't really have anything else that I'm using too much right now. I guess a cool service that I'm using is Lightroom. The new features and the new updates with Lightroom right now, as far as the subject tracking and masking, has really upped my game in photo editing. If you're a creative like myself and you like to do a lot of photo editing, I would say that Lightroom is awesome right now. And having just talked about, I don't like subscription-based products or services. That is one service that you do have to have a subscription to, but it's well worth it, especially if you're in the business of making money off of photography and drone photography. All right, next card. Replay the most downloaded episode. Yeah, that's something that I haven't done. And like I said when I started this, these specific cards that I'm looking through on the PodDecks right now are meant to be whole episodes entirely by themselves. But that is a good idea if I run into a bind in the future. Just replaying an episode that week. I don't know if many podcasters do that. Let me know if you are a podcaster and that's something that you do, and let me know how it works. Is that something that upsets your audience, or is that something they kind of enjoy? My thought of that kind of on podcasts is, if you're a listener, why wouldn't you just go back and watch that episode or listen to that episode if it's one of your favorites? But I suppose it's a way, if someone has forgotten to watch an episode and you reintroduce it as a new episode, maybe you'd be more likely to listen to it. So I guess I would be open to that. Next question is book review. My latest read. Boy, this is something that's going to be hard for me because I'm not much of a reader. I don't like reading books necessarily. I do like reading product manuals. My wife gives me a bunch of grief for that because she's like, nobody reads manuals for stuff. But to me, that's the interesting thing. Looking through the specs, looking through the finer details of products is something I enjoy. So I guess I haven't really read a book recently that's been one that I should recommend, I guess. All right, next topic or next card says ASMR, whisper gently to your listeners. Boy, I don't think you'd probably like to hear me whisper for about an hour, but I do actually have some ASMR unboxings on my YouTube channel. So if you're into that ASMR stuff, which I think it can be very cool, there's a lot of good ASMR channels out there. I am not one of them, but so that's probably something I'm not going to be doing on my podcast. We'll see. You never know. Never say never. Play trivia about your industry. That could be fun if you had guests on. My new favorite mobile app. Right now, I guess this Poddex mobile app would be my favorite at the time. Well, actually, Poddex, yes, this is very cool. This is not sponsored or anything. I'm not affiliated with Poddex at all, but actually my favorite mobile app for productivity probably is Lightroom, because you've got a full range of photo editing features right in Lightroom, and you're able to save it, share it, and I use it in conjunction with Microsoft OneDrive. So when I'm done with edits, I can go and just share them right on to Microsoft OneDrive, share them right to my clients, and away you go. You can do everything basically from your phone. Sometimes for the heavier edits, it's a lot nicer to be on a computer, obviously. But if you're out in the field and your customer wants some photos edited quickly, it's a great option. All right, what am I struggling with this week? Well, I guess patience would be the number one thing. I think that's something everyone probably struggles with at one time or another. My biggest thing I'm struggling with patience is, waiting for my next child to arrive. And so, yeah, I guess I'd have to just say patience with that one. Next card, 3 silly mistakes to avoid in life. Don't have any advice there. Discuss a trending topic. I guess one topic that's trending right now that I really want to know more about, I know nothing about it, is NFTs. It seems like it's all everyone's talking about online right now. I know people are big into the collecting of NFTs. I know entrepreneurs are into NFTs to make money, and I know artists are into NFTs to mint their own projects. And that's something I would really like to learn how to do. I'd like to mint some NFTs. I think that would be a fun way to connect with fans and a fun way to, get your art out there in a fun way. So I guess the topic I'm most interested in right now would be NFTs. If you guys have any recommendations on someone who gives a good deep dive at minting NFTs, let me know, because that's something I would like to know about. All right. Share the craziest thing that's ever happened to you. Man. I'll have to think about that one a little bit. I haven't had too many crazy things happen to me. Revisit that if I remember. Or just pass. Talk about your guilty pleasures. I guess one of them is coffee, and that is one thing that I always talk about the good things that come from YouTube. That's one very negative thing that I've experienced through YouTube. Everyone talked about coffee. I was not a coffee fan at all, and all the creators I was watching always were talking about coffee. So I thought, you know what? I'll give coffee a chance, and coffee plain was just disgusting to me. So I decided, you know what, I'm going to try creamer, and so now I really like coffee with creamer or flavored lattes, and I know those are probably horrible for you, but it's something I enjoy. Not only are they probably not the best for you, but they're very expensive as well. So just this past week, I was trying to refine how I could make coffee not more interesting, but taste better. So now, for the first time ever, I actually crushed or ground my own coffee beans instead of just buying the grounds in the store. And actually, you can tell the difference. I'm actually very surprised with that. Everyone said, oh, it tastes better. Well, it actually does. So I guess that's a guilty pleasure that I wish I wouldn't have started, because it is very addicting. 3 things I wish I had done differently. I don't really know if there is anything I wish I would have done differently. I feel like everything is done, for a reason. And if you make mistakes in life, a lot of times those are very good lessons learned. So I guess I don't have, well, you know what? There is one thing. I wish I would have never bought the magic worm. That is my least favorite buy of all time, because basically it was just a pipe cleaner, and I feel like I really got ripped off with that one. So there's one thing. One habit I'm trying to break. I guess I'm not really trying to break the coffee habit of drinking coffee every morning, but that is one that I would like to break. All right. What I learned about myself this quarter, that could be a whole podcast episode, just as these cards were designed. This one could be really fun, and this is something that could be a segment on my channel. It says, find films or books that you haven't seen, then guess what you think will happen in those movies, and then maybe review it after. That's something I get a lot of grief on, is I haven't seen a lot of famous movies. Just in my last episode with Paul Feinberg, I was talking about how I hadn't seen Back to the Future. So maybe I should do an episode on what I think will happen in Back to the Future, and then see if that's fun. But yeah, there's plenty of famous films that I haven't seen. I could definitely make a podcast episode out of that. All right, share a new skill you are learning. Right now, I'm trying to learn as much as I possibly can about YouTube. Not necessarily about the YouTube algorithm. I saw a very good video today on how you should make videos and projects for yourself. And I think that's very important. I wish I'd remember the name of the person who created that video, but I think that's important, because a lot of times on my channel, I make stuff that necessarily isn't for me, and I would like to do a lot more adventure stuff on my channel. So maybe in the future, I'll take the time to do some more outdoorsy adventure stuff on my YouTube channel. And I think, I keep thinking, if you just did that, you'd probably gain more of an audience quicker. So maybe that's the key to YouTube, not worrying about the algorithm. 4 things you might not know about me. Let's see here. I'm left-handed, but I write right-handed. That's one thing. Discuss the history of your industry. I've talked a lot about the drone industry, and it's a relatively new history, which is rapidly changing. Share your greatest fear. I don't know. There's so many things that, there's a lot of these things that I'm just going to have to pass on for now, but they could be great episodes. I'm actually really liking this Poddex app because it has been easy to talk for the last 20 minutes, and I think it's sparked some good conversation internally in my mind, and hopefully you guys think it's interesting as well. This next card says, describe your perfect day. My perfect day is easy to describe. Every year I get to have a week of perfect days. It's being at the lake with my family. That is what I look forward to all year, and no question, it's my perfect day. Just being around family, being at the lake, there's absolutely nothing better in my mind. Share a time-saving tip. I can do this. Any content creators out there, get yourself a Stream Deck. It has been very helpful on saving time. I've got a lot of macros set up in it to run my Ecamm Live. So if you're watching on YouTube right now, you're basically just seeing a screen share of the Poddex website going, and you're seeing me in the corner. I thought that might be a little bit more interesting than just having me on the main camera. And you're also seeing a picture from the lake with a fire going. So that is a picture I took. That picture is also from the same week where I captured a lot of photos from the Neowise Comet. So if you haven't seen my pictures of the Neowise Comet, go on over to my personal Instagram, and you'll be able to see the pictures I had on that comet. Let's see. Morning inspirational pep talk for your listeners. I'd have to save that for more of a... I'd have to prepare a little bit more on that before I got into that. Top 10 moments on the podcast. Record an Instagram, Facebook Live. That is something that I would like to do in the future, is do a live stream. That would be one of the things that would be challenging for me, because I feel like that would be nerve-wracking, because you never know what you're going to say when it's live. At least when I'm doing these podcasts, I can always edit out things, or I can always start over. There's been several times, including tonight, where I'm in the middle of a podcast and, I get a phone call, and I have forgotten to put my phone on airplane mode, so it kind of messes up the whole podcast. But if you're live, that kind of stuff is going through to your channel, so that would be a whole nother layer of challenging. All right. Well, I'm probably going to wrap up this podcast. Interview your biggest competitor. That's something I'd love to do. I guess I don't know if I have any competitors now, but back when I played baseball, I think that would have been a very fun episode, because it's always fun to have competition. I feel like everything's a competition. Even, just everything in life seems like competition is good. I love competition and friendly competition, and I feel like having competition makes everybody better. So that would be a fun episode. After doing this episode, I feel like Poddex is awesome. These cards that I was using weren't even designed to do, you're supposed to do an entire episode on each one of these cards, but I was just rapidly going through them, so you guys kind of got an idea of what it was all about. yeah, it's something I'm definitely going to look into. I'm going to look into all of their different ideas. It looks like they've got podcast decks for just about every different topic. I'm going to have to do a little more research on those and see which ones I'm going to purchase, but it feels like it's a great product. Let me know if you guys have ever used those for your podcast, and let me know if it's a good idea to have a deck of pod deck sitting next to you when you're doing an interview. And if you have a little bit of dead time, if you just flip over a card and have an idea, I'd say if it filled up any dead space, it'd be worth it. So definitely something to look into. I really appreciate you guys hanging out with me for another half hour this week. Hopefully some exciting news coming personally for me over the next week. I'm sure my wife doesn't want to go much longer than a week without having this baby. I think she's ready to have it right now, actually. So hopefully by the time I'm talking with you guys next week, hopefully there's a new member on my family team. Thanks again for listening, and we will talk to you next week. I'm gonna